So it seems that there's fairly good evidence to imply that Inquisitor Eisenhorn has gone. An Imperial Agents preview article that kind of studiously avoids mentioning him. Karamazov does seem to be out as well, and weirdly enough it looks like Games Workshop's doing its own Inquisitorial style cover-up, with a few social media shenanigans. Let's talk about the Inquisitor and what this latest preview article might mean. Hello and welcome back to Warspecs Tactics, where today we're talking Imperial Agents once more. Games Workshop have been keeping up a steady stream of rules previews from the Codex, perhaps being a bit more generous with this one than they have been for quite a lot of books recently. Potentially kind of bad news today though. We don't have absolute 100% confirmation, but it does seem that the writing's on the wall for Inquisitor Eisenhorn getting full support in this book. This all comes with the biggest Warhammer 40k release week for a little while. Codex Imperial Agents, 3 Auto Battle Forces, a new Combat Patrol with a bunch of exaction squads, some returning character miniatures including this Navigator, Captain Artemis, and a new Celestian Sacrosanct Avalyn, plus a boarding actions book. Pre-orders are all going live on the 10th of August. If you were looking to pick up the Imperial Agents, there's a bunch of discount retailers linked down in the video description. They can all save a bit versus Games Workshop's web store if you are looking to pre-order, usually somewhere between 10 and 21% depending on exactly where you are in the world. If you're looking for the Battle Forces in particular, it's probably worth getting there at least fairly promptly. Games Workshop has been very stingy with supplies to discount retailers in the past, so it might well be worth being ready at go time. It's midnight Eastern Time in Wargame Portal in the USA, and Fenrish Workshop in Canada, 10 AM for Element Games in the UK, and midday Australian Eastern Time for Gap Games. As always, a big thank you for you folks who are supporting through that. It does help keep the videos coming. Getting back to the man himself though, and Inquisitor Eisenhorn is a pretty big character in the 40k setting as it goes. Really quite a well-known name due to the series of novels that he starred in. He's basically an Ordo-Xenos Inquisitor that largely wound up dealing with the machinations of chaos in his storyline. It was generally pretty well welcomed when he finally got a miniature on the tabletop. Always kind of cool to see major characters break out from their novels and actually get the proper plastic miniature that they deserve. It's often been fun when Games Workshop's done that for their Horus Heresy miniature range. It maybe happens just a little bit less frequently in 40k, but we have had a few of the classics come to life, such as Gaunt's Ghost for the Astra Militarum. It seems that they've become part of the core guard range, and also things like Uriel Ventris for the Space Marines, or Valerian and Alea for the Custodians and Sisters of Silence. And at least up until now, Eisenhorn have basically been part of the core range for the Inquisitors, having rules in game that haven't changed too much, with the rules for his fun demon host. At time of recording, his model's still available from the Games Workshop web store. It is a fairly recent plastic miniature. At least from my point of view, I didn't really have any suspicion that he'd be getting removed from the Imperial Agents Codex, at least up till now. Basically, the rule support being lost for this will be kind of sad. A cool recent miniature, a big character in the lore, just doesn't really seem like any good reason to pull rule support. Here's the 10th edition version of his rules. Currently costs 65 points in game, a slightly beefed up version of a standard Inquisitor with some pretty punchy melee. 5 attacks at strength 6, AP 2 and damage 2 means that he fights on a similar sort of level to a Space Marine captain. He gets at least a somewhat scary anti-elite style psychic attack, a 6+ feel no pain, a close range debuff against enemy shooting, which is maybe a little bit situational, and perhaps the most fun thing to represent his pet demon host is to double the attacks of any demon host models within the unit. So basically 2 shooting attacks at strength 9, AP 2 and damage 3 with the sustained hits, and then a whole flurry of strength 6, AP 2, damage 1 in close combat. I wouldn't say that he's considered overly strong in game. I feel like he's one of the Inquisitors that's played less than the rest, but I think that he's kind of fine at a casual level. You probably do want to put him in a henchman warband alongside the demon host though, for an interesting sort of medium threat skirmish unit with a bit of OC. As mentioned, I didn't really have any massive suspicion that he'd be going to Warhammer Legends. Generally, recent on-sale plastic miniatures have typically been pretty safe from that kind of treatment. It's more the sort of fine cast miniatures that haven't got a plastic update that often tend to be pulled. As I mentioned, it's certainly not 100% confirmed that he's gone, but there's 2 bits of evidence that really quite imply it. Games Workshop's teaser article, and then also a deleted social media reply to that same article, which looked like it doubled down on confirming it, when that was basically their chance to allay any concerns if they wanted to. The article that they came out with today was titled The 3 Named Inquisitors in Codex Imperial Agents, and that does seem to be quite a deliberate choice of title there. It says the 3 named Inquisitors, not 3 of the named Inquisitors, so that implies that there's only these 3 and no more. Eisenhorn is definitely a named Inquisitor. so you'd strongly expect him to get a mention in this, but they only call out Greyfax, Kyriadraxus for the Ordo Xenos, and Inquisitor Kotias. No mention at all of Karamazov and Eisenhorn, which does imply that they're out. Like I said, not final confirmation, not impossible that they could have just mistitled their article, but it does seem odds on, and most of the comments and discussion around it so far do seem to have taken it as such. And again, with all the people questioning it in the comment section under their social media, if they wanted to make people less concerned about it, they absolutely could have, and have replied to a few things, but nothing that gives you positive news. Karamazov, I did think the writing was on the wall for him. For the most part, when codexes have come out in 10th edition, just about any resin miniatures go away and lose rule support, with only a few notable things surviving, that my suspicions are that they'll get an update next time around. He's got a pretty cool classic miniature on his Throne of Judgment, along with his Acolytes one with his triple-barreled multi-melter. I feel like he would be a pretty awesome miniature to get a release for at some stage, maybe bigger and badder and a beefed up kit. But given that we've had no news on that this time around, most people were expecting him to go the way of Legends, sadly. One thing that I found particularly interesting, though, on their Facebook reply section, one person asked if Eisenhorn was gone. They said, "I was about to start an Imperial Agents army, but if he's cut, then it's a hard no from me." To which the Warhammer 40k official Facebook page responded to that, but then deleted their comment. And the person who responded to their comment said that they basically responded saying that the only rules for Inquisitor Eisenhorn would be supplied in the box for him, as they've done with certain Black Library miniatures in the past. That was quickly pointed out, though, that the rules for Eisenhorn are dated and not current to 10th edition, maybe something that the social media team hadn't realised, so I guess that's why they axed that comment. It now seems if I go back and check that comment, both the 40k page reply and the thing replying to that have both been removed. I'm not sure if that's by some sort of page admin or something like that, which I don't really think is super helpful if his rules are indeed gone from the book. Again, between that and the article, it just really doesn't look good for Eisenhorn, even if I guess it's not impossible they could have deleted this reply due to it being inaccurate. Either way, it just seems like it would be a sensible idea to just say whether or not he's gone to Legends or not, as people are going to find out soon enough anyway. And particularly while anyone owning the model or really liking the character isn't exactly going to enjoy it, the concept of things going to Legends when codexes come out isn't exactly a new phenomenon for Games Workshop. While it certainly is sad to lose a bit of flavour, it's still not like there's going to be no option for running him in-game. Plenty of groups out there do run with Legends rules, even if it is a bit irritating not to have them balanced for current competitive play, or not get any attention if they're massively underpowered or anything. I guess if you absolutely do want to use your Eisenhorn miniature in tournaments, I guess the way to run him would probably be to use the generic Inquisitor rule set, which they did confirm previously in an article before, showcasing their power of the Rosette ability. It certainly wouldn't be quite as fun and fluffy, I don't think, but could be one way to still use the miniature. And of course, in more casual games, you could just either just keep on using the index datasheet, nothing really to stop you, and I don't think that anyone would really argue that Eisenhorn was overpowered to any extent, or just use whatever Legends rules they come out with. I guess for proxies for Karamazov in the competitive game, it's not quite as straightforward. I guess it'd be Legends rules for him again. I suppose if you really were searching for a proxy, you could even run him as an Armiger Warglaive potentially. Obviously not quite the same thing, but feels like it might fit the bill to at least some extent for his actual weapon profiles. A nice tanky character with some force shielding, a bit of melee, and a fairly scary melter weapon. Could be one way to get a bit of mileage out of the model on the table, maybe with a beefed up base, and could be an awesome way to actually field a converted and big Karamazov. It seems though that the generic Inquisitor option, I guess, won't actually have an option to field them in terms of a dedicated miniature outside of Eisenhorn. That old resin one has been removed from the range, I believe, and they haven't brought out anything to replace it. I kind of feel like they should release this Erasmus Cartavonius guy, who was a limited miniature a while back. At least that'd give them one generic option for an Inquisitor. In any case, I guess we'll find out for certain in the not too distant future. They'd already said there'd be 27 datasheets in the codex, though it's not clear whether they were counting combat patrol sets, and they haven't 100% confirmed whether or not things like Grey Knight Terminators or a version of the Battle Sister Squad will be in the codex or not, and if there's any other surprises like the Rhino, Chimera, Navigator or Minister and Priest, I guess we'll have to wait for the full rules for that. Otherwise, the preview article mainly just delved into the lore of the remaining named Inquisitors. Inquisitor Kotias has had his malefic warding slightly changed. Previously, this was a special rule that gave you a 6+ feel no pain against demon and psychic attacks, Now it gives you a 4+ invulnerable save against psychic attacks and demon attacks, and also gives you a 6+ invulnerable save against everything, which I guess isn't unhelpful to have, but not really quite as exciting. I guess maybe not the absolute worst thing if you're leading a unit that's got a low save anyway, maybe some henchmen, warbands, or some Imperial Guard. I'll be kind of curious to see the rest of his datasheet though, with his big and weirdly chunky model. Will be fun if his Cyber Eagle gets some sort of cool rules to go alongside it, I guess. Otherwise, looks like Inquisitor Greyfax still has her Psyoculum. This one gives the unit's ranged attacks the Anti-Psyker 4+ ability, which can be helpful for taking down certain big psychic beasties, maybe things like giving psychic weapons a bit more bite against certain demon primarchs or tyrannid biomonstrosities, kind of depends on what you're fighting. Kyria Draxus had previously been the single most competitively used Inquisitor. She has fairly decent shooting and a handy ability to stop enemies shooting their units at longer range, both of which are what I'd say her main value are. And then as a further extra bonus, she also had her Xenos Hunter rule, which allows you to get +1 to hit against anything that isn't Imperium or Chaos, as is her place within the Ordo Xenos. I feel like if you use her in a game at the moment, perhaps the biggest hope is to just keep the rules kind of similar. They're pretty strong already, and down stand out great alongside Custodian Guard, interestingly enough. They've got some really good rules that can take her shooting to the next level, between double shooting, rerolls, and interesting stratagems. In any case, let me know what you make of the article and Games Workshop's follow-up social media post to it. Do you think that Eisenhorn will indeed be gone as suspected? And how big of a blow would you find it if he is? Look forward to hearing all your thoughts in the comments below, and feel free to subscribe if you'd like to see more like this. I'll certainly cover any other Games Workshop's news or reveals that they do, including a full review of Codex Imperial Agents when it comes out. As mentioned, pre-orders for that and the Battle Forces and the Combat Patrols and things go up on Friday night to Saturday morning. If you were going to be picking any of it up, feel free to use the links in the video description. They do save a little bit of money, don't cost any extra to use, and help support the channel a bit. Otherwise, if you'd like to keep the videos coming a bit more directly, I would just like to mention that Auspex Tactics does have a Patreon page as well, and you can find that linked in the video description if you'd like to help support and keep all the content coming. Channel patrons do get a fair few advantages, seeing certain videos early, regular votes to see what sort of things happen next on the channel, and automatic entry into the regular prize giveaways with a chance to win some big model kits every month. If any of that sounds good to you, or you'd just like to help support, the link is down in the video description. In any case, a massive thank you for listening, and I'll hope to see you guys next time.